And the worst part is people are fucking buying real estate in these places. I mean, that's just the dumbest shit ever. The dumbest. Did I say it was dumb? No, that's not strong enough. Super meta, immaculately dumb. You know, it's just like if so play to earn typically is subsidized, right? So with Axie, they were smart, they were first, and they had a huge sponsor base where they went out there and got groups to sponsor people left and right. And it just blew up, right? And why wouldn't it blow up? It's free money. It's going back to the old Silicon Valley way for software. We'll subsidize the cost for you. We'll subsidize the cost of bandwidth or storage, whatever it is, to get you to use it and view it as a marketing cost. But it's still a traditional ecosystem where either you subsidize it or you generate revenues to buy the tokens that are being created. And if you don't generate revenues to buy the tokens, either you have to have new subsidies continually coming in, or you have to have new players coming in to subsidize the existing players. And the minute the musical chairs stop, it collapses. Unless you have an ecosystem there, an economy there that can continue to buy the tokens to make it worthwhile for people to play if they're playing for some reason other than the fact they just love the game. And so what I had recommended to them back when they had a maximum number of players was now's the time to sell NFTs to people outside, and then they can sell that and that generates revenue, or Axie can do the same thing, create NFTs based off the play, the best plays ever, and then people outside can buy those. You take that revenue that comes in and you use that to buy the SOP and the Axie tokens. Or you go to Coca-Cola or whoever and say, we've got X number of people, here's a demographic breakdown, here's a geographic breakdown, advertise, and we'll slip in just like they do in video games, right? Here's this sponsor, here's that. And because we have millions of users around the world, we're gonna charge you $3 million, and we're gonna take 75% of that, 25% goes into our treasury for operations, and 75% goes to buy SOP and Axie, which creates a virtuous cycle, which means there's always going to be a foundation for pricing as long as you have players, right? That makes it more sustainable. Yeah, but that means it's only available to players, right? And players can just buy it originally right from the game itself. So there's got to be a reason for somebody to buy it, and it applies for everything. Play to, work to earn, learn to earn, whatever it is, if, even NFT sales, right? So with the Mavericks, we give away a free NFT when you show up at a game. And I always ask the same question, why would somebody buy that from somebody else? If you collect it, great. There's a reason there, right? If there's some utility, great. But if it's just, a play to earn token from somebody, there's no reason for them to buy it. You always have to ask yourself, what is the reason that a second, third, fourth level buyer will buy? Otherwise, it's going to die. Of course, because it's all uncertainty, and there's the security aspect of it, and we see what's happening every day. There's a hack somewhere, and to me, it's unfortunate. Obviously, you don't want to be the person losing money. But again, it's no different than the early days of the internet. You got to remember that there was a time when people said, don't use Amazon because your credit card is going to get hacked. Don't do any buying on the internet because you're putting at risk your credit card. So it's part of the learning curve. And every time people get smarter and they learn from experience, it's just because of the scale already of crypto, it can be expensive and unfortunate. The metaverse is anything you want it to be. This is the metaverse. We are in the metaverse right now as we speak. Unfortunately, I'm in the down under metaverse and it's dark down here. Vecna has its own metaverse, it's just everybody, you put people that focus on VR want that to be the metaverse, right? People want Web3 to be the metaverse. Anytime you have more than one person together, there's no rhyme or reason to it yet. Now, will there be? I don't think it's this. It's going to be hard to standardize things and to make it interoperable, at least for the foreseeable future. And so, I think Metaverse is just like a Zoom, just like this, right? Only whatever platform you choose to aggregate people. And then you hope that grows into community. It all comes down to community. Where can you create community, and what's the impact of that community? Your community might be, you guys and your organization, the people you bring in, right? It could be the community for the Dallas Mavericks. It could be just community within VR using an avatar. There's 1,000 ways to create community, and technology is going to have a growing impact on that community. Whichever platforms make the strongest communities will be one type of metaverse. The communities, whichever platform creates the largest community, will have another type of metaverse, if you will. And so it won't be just one size fits all. There'll be a lot of different applications and a lot of ways of defining the metaverse. But right now it's more talk than anything. And the worst part is people are buying real estate in these places. I mean, that's just the dumbest shit ever. The dumbest. Did I say it was dumb? No, that's not strong enough. Super meta, immaculately dumb. It's just like if, it's not even as good as a URL or, an ENS, because there's unlimited volumes that you can create. Now, after you create a community, not before, but after you create a community, then you can find places, depending on how that community works, that can have perceived value because of access or whatever, right? But beforehand, based off of a traditional real estate model, dumbest motherfucking shit ever. Look, I'm an investor in Hugo through those guys, right? And I still thought it was dumb to do the real estate. Now, it was great money for them, right? But that wasn't based off of utility. Now, what Hugo's done or is doing that is smart, they're calling it real estate, but really it's just a token for access. It's just marketing nomenclature, basically. Now, maybe they'll be able to build it to turn into other things, but you've got to have a community first. And then, again, it's just gated access, if you will, as opposed to an address. Low cap altcoin. I mean, I'm a fan of Klima DAO, right? Which used to be high cap. Now it's about a $30 million market cap. One of the applications that I think will work, or I hope will work, and I'll take a step back to explain why. Like a couple years ago, I went and bought some carbon offsets because I wanted to offset my personal and corporate carbon footprint. And it's a pain in the ass to go and do that, right? You have to go through a broker. You don't know what's real or not real. There is no real blockchain type scenario to verify everything that's easy. And then Klima came along and I invested purely because I think it's easier right now as we speak to buy a Klima token, an MCO token, a BCT token, and burn it and take the treasury back out, and take that as an offset. There's upside to it if this happens a lot, but the worst case, which is the way I also try to look at things, is worst case is I just burn them, and based off their treasury that I've burned, I've offset X amount of tons of carbon. And to me, that's a win no matter how you look at it. And so they're still early in the game. They've made some missteps, but I think that they've really gotten their act together. Like Polygon came in and bought a bunch, and as a result, offset their footprint for their proof of stake network. And I think more and more companies will do that. And so that's a low market cap one that I like. Klima, I own Ape. I own some BLT, Blockdo, because it's wallets for flow, injective, Aletha, which is the integrating artificial intelligence to NFTs. So that's probably the other one. And I like Ocean as well. ETH has been my most successful by far, with Bitcoin right behind. I did really well with Helium, but I sold right at the top. I got lucky, you know. And in terms of one I missed out on, none that I really wish, you know, because I got in early enough that a lot of them were really cheap. I could take flyers, you know, buying Polygon at under a penny, you know, those types of things. So there hasn't really been one that I've truly missed out. Now I've timed some of them wrong. I lightened up on a bunch of stuff and on Ethereum and Bitcoin. So I lightened up, and some I got out really well, and some I sold lower than where it is now, but that's okay. You can't time it always. Well, I'll do this. Like if I was explaining it to Bill Gates, right, who dismisses it and is a tech guy, I think the token side is all noise. The price of tokens are noise. That has nothing to do with the foundational value of crypto. Put aside Bitcoin. Bitcoin's store of value, right? But I think what really comes to play for me is the idea of distributed applications driven by smart contracts. So I mentioned being able to use, to create carbon offsets. So the question, somebody like Bill would come back and say is, well, why not? Why do I need tokens? Why does that matter, right? Why don't I just create something that's easy to buy, a certificate? Well, the difference is the standards that are in place so that royalties or storage or exploring, those things aren't necessarily available through traditional database applications. An organization that is vertical is always going to have a hard time overcoming its hierarchy. Whereas a DAO is vertical at some levels, but it's still smushed vertical, right? So that the people who start the DAO control everything, no matter how much you want to lie to yourself about how open-ended it is, right?